talk about the big noon game, the big game of the week. That is number 7 Penn State at number 3 Ohio State. 11 a.m. kickoff for me, a noon big kickoff for Eastern time on Big Fox. Gus and Joel on the call with Jenny on the sideline. I'm fired up for this. I've been fired up for this for the better part of a couple of weeks. I needed some things to get taken care of, notably that Ohio State gets past Purdue because you never do know with those teams in Indiana, but Ohio State's gone 3-0 against teams from Indiana this year. And while UMass ain't nobody, just wanted Penn State to get through that one unscathed, no injuries. So we're in good shape. We are in the best shape because we're going to see good on good, we hope, right? So injuries on the Ohio State front. Travion Henderson, Denzel Burke, and Emeka Ibuka may or may not be back, but I don't blame Ryan Day for playing coy if he knows something that we don't. But that's the thing right now for Ohio State. They were able to run the ball for 152 yards going into Purdue. Dallin Hayden in the backfield. Xavier Johnson also in the backfield, but Dallin Hayden had 76 of those 152 yards against Purdue. That was a really great rushing game for Ohio State. Problem is, 5.8 yards per carry is great, except it's Purdue. Okay? And they're missing their home run hitter. Travion Henderson had a 61-yard touchdown against Notre Dame. They ran for all of 126 yards all game against Notre Dame in that game. You know what I'm saying here? You need to be able to run the football. But the thing that changed for Ohio State and the Buckeyes is that he just made it simple on last Saturday against Purdue. They ran a few tosses. They ran a few counters. They ran some outside zone stretch. They were able to say, hey, we're really talented on the offensive line. We're really talented in the backfield. Let's just make this game simple. And I would not be surprised if that is the way in which Ryan Day chooses to call Ohio State football offensive plays for the rest of the year. Keep it simple, stupid. We got Marvin Harrison Jr. and you don't. Full stop. There's one. We got Cade Stover and you don't, right? We have tailbacks that can gash you. We have an offensive line that is great on zone blocking. Let's just do that. But I think that guy wearing number 18, number 18 in your heart, in your programs, number 1 in your hearts, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a day. And if there is a day to have one, it is against Penn State. We'll get to the game in November, but right now, this is one for which it feels like Penn State has been coming for some time, right? Last year was a great example of this. They had held Ohio State to all of 16 points until the fourth quarter. And then we got to see JT Tuimoloau call game with one of the best defensive performances that we have seen in the past 20 years. I'm going to say it again because the stats are just that nasty. 8 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 sacks, 2 picks, including a pick 6 and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery in that game last year against the Nittany Lions. Really responsible for 3 of the 4 turnovers that Penn State had in that game. But that also overshadowed Parker Washington went 11 catches for 170 yards. Sean Clifford threw for 364, threw 3 TDs, threw 3 picks. You can't afford to give up big plays to this Penn State offense because the Penn State defense is just that good. As a matter of fact, 3 of the 4 top defenses in the country scoring average are in the Big Ten East, and Penn State's one of them. You also got to add to this that Penn State has been remarkably good at not just running the ball, but stopping the run. Again, I go back to Ohio State's got to be able to run the ball on one of the best rush defenses in all of football. If they can, you can see how this was going Ohio State's way. However, the series history is not kind to Penn State. As a matter of fact, Ohio State has won the last 6 straight against Penn State and 10 of the last 11. And I called the NCAA bylaws hotline at 614-GOT-DAMN, and they told me that the clarification was in fact correct. Given the recent series history between the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions on a football field in State College, Pennsylvania is now in Ohio State territory until such time as Penn State, can win a football game against Ohio State. This might be that year. I think between Kyle McCord and Drew Allar, you're going to see fireworks. This is the second biggest game of Kyle McCord's career. He already got that win against Notre Dame. He would have probably liked it to go on a little bit smoother than it did, but you're happy to get the win. For Aller, this is personal. You didn't think I was going to get a Coach Prime reference in here on a bye week, but I did. It's personal for Drew Allar. So that dude's from Ohio. I've been told that it's very personal to his family. And I've been told that the circumstances were what they were, and that Ryan Day had already filled his position for that year at quarterback, and didn't offer one Drew Aller. He ends up at Penn State. Whether or not Aller takes that seriously, when they get to go to the shoe to go dealing, we will see. But he has been pretty outstanding in his first year as a starter this year. He's got 12 passing TDs and 0 picks thrown in 181 attempts. I don't care that you haven't played stellar competition. It is very impressive to take care of the football for as long as he has through half the season. You're also talking about 300-yard passing performance, but he hasn't needed to do much, right? Because he's got Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in the backfield, Olu Fashanu on the offensive line that's been stellar. He hasn't needed to go find Keandre Lambert-Smith as often as we might think, or Liam Clifford, right? He's had his opportunities to go down the field, and he will continue to because he's got a rifle for an arm. But I think that we're overlooking just how important a win for James Franklin might be in this series. I say we. Penn State fans aren't. They know what the history is. They know what the history is against Michigan. They know they can win 11 games and lose a game to Michigan and Ohio State, and it feels like this is all for naught. But this is also the most talented football team that James Franklin has had since he's been at Penn State. And he's had a couple of teams that include Saquon Barkley and Micah Parsons. Okay? That's what we're saying. But it's about that defense for them. Manny Diaz has those dudes playing lights out football. They were great last year. They're still good this year. I can't wait to see if a Kalen King or a Johnny Dixon can line up and take away Marvin Harrison Jr. Also, Johnny Dixon better keep his head on a swivel because there was one at Ohio State playing wide receiver. Now there's one at Penn State playing cornerback. Johnny Dixon's going to be in for it one way or the other. I just can't wait to see which one Twitter decides to go and get into their mentions depending on what's going on in the game. For the Buckeyes, again, stemming that offensive line for the Penn State front on defense is going to be a big deal. They haven't been outstanding in run defense, but they have been outstanding in preventing people from scoring, which means limiting the big plays. Like quiet as it's kept, that's a really great scoring defense precisely because guys are beginning to understand their roles in Jim Knowles' defense, and they are keeping a lid on these explosives, and they are able to stop people from making those 5, 7, 10-yard plays into 25 and 50, 75-yard touchdowns. It's going to get tougher as the season goes on, but that's how most of the Big Ten schedule is stacked up, particularly for these two. But again, can Penn State stop that guy named Marvin Harrison Jr., and can Ohio State stop those guys, stick Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and then limit the damage that a guy who's just walking into this rivalry as a starting quarterback in Drew Allar might be able to do, right? I don't know how his emotions are going to look for this, but we'll find out. I think this game has the same implications as Oregon, Washington, as Duke, Florida State, which we'll talk about, as Oklahoma and Texas, as Ohio State and Michigan. This is a college football playoff quarterfinal. And I think it can directly affect the rankings. I'll add here, no one expects Penn State to be good in this game, except Penn State fans. And the reason I say that is all you got to do is go look at how the AP voters think about Penn State. They think less of them than I do. And they decided to give Ohio State at least one vote to be the number one team in the country, and Penn State didn't get any at all. This is an opportunity for you to just rise up those rankings with a signature win on the road. And I dare say it would be the best win of the season for anybody if they were able to pull this off, because Oklahoma beat Texas, but Oklahoma beat Texas on a neutral site. This would be Penn State traveling to the shoe and doing basically what what Michigan and Oregon have done in the last couple of years and getting a really big win. Be bigger than Ohio State beating Notre Dame in South Bend, because obviously Notre Dame lost games to Louisville and Ohio State. But we'll see. I think for Ohio State, if they win this game, would I have to think about making them the number one team in the country? It depends. It depends on how good they look, what the margin of victory is, and if we see something different from that offense than we have seen in recent past. I'm not used to a Ryan Day football team being truly outstanding defensively and still figuring it out offensively, which is another way of saying, if Ryan Day finds something that clicks in a big way, where that offense is firing on cylinders that, well, frankly, I didn't know that he got that underneath the hood, then I'll have to think about him differently. But right now, I got a hard time with that. Still, I want to see how it plays out, and I want to see how the rest of the weekend plays out, because last week we had 7 top 25 teams take L's, and a couple of those nobody saw coming. We will see, because one way or another, one of these top 10 teams is going to take their first L of the season. 6-0 coming into this for both of those. Fired up for this. Can't wait to talk about it with you on Saturday night when we do the live show here after Alabama, Tennessee, which is the next game that we got to talk about on the docket. Oh, before I get out of here, Ohio State's my pick, right? Yeah, chalk. That's what we're doing. We're mostly going chalk here, right? I don't see any upsets because we're starting to figure out who people are. But I like Ohio State here because I like the way the defense is playing, and I like Marvin Harrison Jr. more than I like Manny Diaz's secondary. That's it. right? I think when you got the play on the line, you're going to go up to 1-8, and 1-8's going to go make a play because that's what he's been doing for the past couple of years. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.